And just take a moment to just gently shift the weight from side to side. So as we take ourselves through this warm-up, we're going to allow ourselves to really zone in on our body. Seeing how our body feels today. It might feel different to how it felt the last class. It might feel fabulous, and that's brilliant. But let's just take the time to really zone in on that. And if you want to close the eyes, by all means do. And we'll just start to allow our breath to come and go nice and gently. So as we're rocking there, let's just focus in on that, and we'll make sure that our weight's right in the centre of the 2 feet. So just notice whether you have got your weight more on one side than the other, and see if you can become nice and even between those 2 feet. And then see if you can just transfer your weight a little bit over the front of your feet and then into the back of the feet, and then find that place where the weight's right between the 2 feet. From there, I just want you to allow yourself to really zone in on your breathing. And as we breathe nice and deeply, we'll allow our focus to come inward, become more internal. Start to really zone in on the rib cage. We'll allow the cage to expand. And if we imagine it like a great big basket that expands all the way from the front and the back of the body, we're going to see if we can expand the breath into back, side and front of the torso. That breath to drop a little bit lower. So allow yourself to drop into the belly. Rib cage really expands low now. So it's not really up high into the shoulders, into the collarbone. We're really allowing our breath to be expansive, down, deep and wide. Our awareness into our pelvis. So we'll gently tip our pelvis forwards and gently tip our pelvis back. And then we'll take it through those 2 extremes, tipping gently forwards and gently back. And we can find that place where it feels as though if it were a bucket of water, you'd have a level bucket of water, it wouldn't be tipping out the front or out the back. So once we're there, let's allow ourselves to lengthen really nice and tall through the spine. So we feel as though the spine lengthens up and your head floats upwards as if you were a helium-filled balloon floating up for the sky. Gorgeous. Let's take a nice deep breath. We'll lift the shoulders. We'll roll the shoulders gently back and down. And again, the shoulders can lift and roll back and down. Taking 3 more like that. Release of any tension, any stress. Easing the shoulders towards one another, sinking down towards the tailbone. Take a nice deep breath for me there, and as you breathe out, we're going to think about the pelvic floor muscles. Breathing in as we soften down. So breathing out, we're going to lift the pelvic floor muscles, and breathe in as we float them back down. If you think that breathing is the wrong direction, it doesn't matter. Just let it go with whichever direction you want. Just allow the breath to come and go. And we'll just make sure we're not holding our breath. So we've got the pelvic floor gently lifting and then softening back down. Good. So if we think about the 2 sits bones, we'll allow ourselves to draw the muscles inwards and upwards and then release. And then think about the muscles between the tailbone and the pubic bone, drawing in and up. And then soften down. Then see if you can take it from all 4 points at the same time. 4 corners of the diamond, drawing up and in. Breathe in as you float back down. This time, just take it to a halfway lift. So we're going to hold it in that halfway lift, and we've got the breath coming and going nice and gently. Lovely. Take a breath for me there. Allow the right arm to float forwards and up. As the arm floats back down, we'll change over to the other side. Opposite arm floats forwards and up. Lovely. And floating gently down. So we're changing sides each time. we've got through the shoulder. And I should say, if you've got the eyes closed, if at any time you start to feel a little bit dizzy or a little bit woozy, just allow the eyes to open. And also, if you do start to feel dizzy or woozy at any time, make sure you're breathing. Just bring yourself back to your breath and ignore for a moment, have a little moment to just zone back in on the breathing. Finishing off on that left side and letting those arms float back down. From there, let's take a little bend of the knees. So we've got that connection through the core. We'll soften into the knees and then we'll allow the legs to lengthen. Lovely, let's keep that going. So as we do that, we're imagining that we're sliding down a wall and allowing the back to stay connected and just the knees are bending. Lovely. From there, we'll allow the arms to open out. So we'll let the arms slide open along the wall and then floating down. Good. And again, opening out through the arms and softening down. Taking just 2 more like that. One. Back by our sides. We'll take our side bends from there, up and over to the right side. Head extends out and away. Breathing in as we come back through the centre, up and over to the opposite side. Good. So you've got that nice connection through the core. Keep that going for me. I want you to imagine your head is extending out and away. So if you visualise yourself like a sunflower, you're going to really reach for the sun as you extend up, out and away. Lovely. And if you want to add the top arm in, do. If there's any discomfort through the lower back, once you've added that top arm in, just leave it back by your side. To the centre, drawing the fingertips in towards one another, letting those shoulders glide down the back. So we'll take our spine twist from here, keeping the pelvis nice and still. The rib cage gently rotates around to the side. Now, as you rotate the rib cage around, keep the pelvis nice and still for me, returning to the centre. Rotating around to the opposite side. Breathing in as we return back to the centre. Imagine that you've got a light shining out of your belly button. Stay fixed on the spot in front of you. It's a rotation through the spine. Check you've got that little lift through the core, and that will really help to support the lower back and keep the pelvis nice and still. The centre, let's allow the arms to release. We'll let the top of the head release. Just take a moment to breathe there. Check you've got that core connection, and then breathing out as we release through the top of the head, and we'll start to roll gently down through the spine. Now, if there's any soreness in your back as you do this, just track the hands down the fronts of the thighs to give you that little bit of extra support. Take a nice deep breath there, and then breathe out as we roll back up through the spine. Take a breath at the top. And then again, breathing out, top of the head releases, we start to roll down through the spine. Gently rolling down through the vertebrae. Take a nice deep breath at the bottom. And breathing out as we roll back up. If you need to bend the knees a little more because you start to feel it pulling into the hamstrings too much, that's fine. Let's take 3 more like that. Do at the end, we'll add in our little plie, our little bend of the knee, a little slide down the wall. So as we get to the top there, let's roll the shoulders back and down and just slide down the wall with that nice bend through the knees. Good, and lengthening nice and tall. 2 more like that. A little bend through the knees. Just roll them back and down. Go for that plie, lovely. Good. And last one. those legs lengthen, or just lengthen the legs to the point before the knees lock backwards. Lovely. Take a breath for me there. Let's allow the eyes to open, and we're going to allow ourselves to take some balance work. So let's allow the right foot to gently lift away from the floor. Floating down. Lovely. So we'll allow the hips to stay nice and stable and still. We'll allow the knee to lift. Floating down. Nice, good. Keeping the pelvis nice and stable and still, we'll lift, and then this time we'll float the foot down, flex the foot for me and push the outside of the foot out to the side. So the outside of the leg pushes out and floating down. Lovely. And again on the other side. So the knee lifts. Oh, she says, floating down, flex the foot, push out through the side of the leg. So you're really pushing along the side. Yeah, lovely. Good. And again, we lift. Way to the side, we're going to allow the toe to almost point downward, so we get the real outer side of the buttock as we lift. Nice, good. And again. Open out to the side. Good. Take a nice breath for me. We're going to change the emphasis of our squats now. So we're going to hinge at the hips and hinge at the knees. There'll be a bit more work going through the bottom. So we're going to sink gently down through the knees and through the hips, and then we'll allow ourselves to lift. Now, let's allow our chest to stay really proud as we do that. So think about staying lifted through the chest, really connecting into those core muscles. And if you need to change the emphasis slightly so it's more abdominal to squeeze, that's all good. We'll see if we can keep that pelvic floor lifting at the same time. We're going to allow the right foot to lift as we come out of there. So the leg lifts, and then we'll float back down, taking that squat once again. We lift, allow that leg to lift. Good. This time, let's add on our little side extension. So we're sinking down, we lift the leg, and then let's push that leg out to the side. Lovely, floating down. And again, we take that squat. The side, feet come back together. Good. And again, sinking back. And we lift. This time, we'll bring the leg back in, so the knee comes back in, and let's see if we can stretch it behind us. Leg back into our squat there. Sinking down, we lift. The leg pushes out to the side. Bring that knee back in, and then push back behind us. Now, it might be that the toe touches down behind you. Give that buttock a little squeeze. Now, if you feel ready to, this time we'll go a bit more Superman in it. Push the leg back. We'll keep a long line from the foot to the head, and we'll see if we can allow the torso to just come into line with the leg. And drawing back in, changing over to the other leg, sinking low. I'm too keen. Lifting the leg, pushing it back out to the side. Good, and we lift and stretch back behind us. I'm releasing from there. Nice work, guys. Well done. So we'll take a deep breath in. And as we breathe out, let's allow ourselves to roll down through the spine, and we'll bring ourselves onto hands and knees. So adjust the camera as you need to. We'll release through the top of the head, rolling gently down through the spine. Bringing those hands underneath the shoulders. We'll let the knees come underneath the hips, and we've got a really sturdy base here. Lovely. just want to take a moment to just allow ourselves to really connect into those core muscles once again. And I'd like to zone in on the pelvic floor when we're here, because I generally do a lot of abdomen work when we're here. So let's think about pelvic floor as we did at the beginning of the class. We're going to allow ourselves to think about a little drawing in through the pelvic floor and then a little release. I'm going to change the emphasis slightly. So we make it more like a wave. And what I want you to do is think about the pelvic floor drawing from tailbone forwards to the pubic bone. So like a wave coming forwards and then drawing back. Notice I'm not moving any of my bones. Yeah. So it's really a drawing in through the pelvic floor, and we're thinking tailbone to pubic bone and then releasing. Pubic bone and release. Let's do that once more. Give it a good connection. Let the shoulders glide down the back, head extends out and away, and just take a moment to make sure you've got the breath coming and going as you do that. As you breathe out, let's slide the right leg away from us, keeping the pelvis nice and still. Breathing in as we soften back in, and then changing over to the other side. So stretching the leg away. Now, we've all got our cups of tea nearby. It's almost compulsory. So imagine that someone's just put their cup of tea or their cup of coffee on your pelvis now, and you're trying to make sure that it stays nicely balanced. On each shoulder blade. So as we stretch the leg away, we'll allow the opposite arm to lengthen. Arms are optional. Starting the Facebook Live class today, I was chatting to my Zoom people because at the beginning I couldn't work out why they couldn't hear, I couldn't hear them. They could hear me but I couldn't hear them. So I had to go upstairs and consult my technical crew. Turns out I just needed to turn the volume up on the laptop. So that crisis was averted a little bit quicker than we imagined. So that's good news. That's why we're a bit late to the party this morning. Sorry about the delay. For me, and just allow yourself to take a moment to sit back onto your heels. Lengthen the arms out in front of you if you want to, and then rest the forehead towards the floor. If you want to from here, you can take the knees a little bit wider, and that might give you a little bit more crease into the hips and the knees. You just release that back out if it got a bit stiff during that exercise. So take a little shift from side to side, and that might be a little shift into the lower back. Just a gentle rock from side to side to release into the hips and into the lower back. And then we'll come into the centre, we'll take a breath, we'll walk the hands over to the right side, and we'll allow that left arm to reach across us. Does anyone notice this is my new favourite stretch? I'm like putting this in every single class. I can't get enough of it. It's so nice down the side of the body. Breath and walking the hands round to the other side. Reaching the right arm across and pulling through the right hip. Walking the hands back into the centre. Let's bring those knees in close together once again as we come to that hands and knees position once again. So we'll take our thread in the needle from there. Squeezing in through those core muscles. Take a deep breath, and as you breathe out, the right hand lifts, and you're going to weave the hand through the gap between the hand and the knee. And we'll breathe in as we draw the arm back, changing over to the other side. So weaving the hand through. Now, hopefully this will feel really lovely on your spine. If it doesn't, you just make it a little bit smaller. If you want to make it a bit bigger, we can add in an opening at the start. So we'll allow the arm to open up towards the sky, and then we'll thread the needle through. Breathing in as we return. Changing over to the other side. Arm opens out. Threading the needle through. Drawing that arm back. And again, arm opens out. Threading the needle through. So I've got a few people in the room that feel really ambitious today, I can just tell. If you want to, we can allow ourselves to lengthen the opposite leg away from us. So we'll stretch the right leg away as the left arm reaches out and away. So we're adding the two sequences together. Open the arm out, reach up for the sky, yeah, there we are, and flowing through. So we get that little rotation. We also get that little bit of balance work. Opposite arm to leg extend away. Let the arm open out, keep the leg still, and then thread the arm through. And coming back. My leg seems to be getting longer. I seem to, no matter how far I come across the mat, I'm still bashing the my little thinking Buddha over there. Yeah. Just sit back onto your heels, stretch the arms out. So this time we'll keep the knees together, or close together, just hip distance apart. And we're going to stretch the arms out as far away from us as we can. So as we hinge ourselves forwards from here, we'll bring our weight all the way over our hands. Our shoulders will be above our wrists, and hopefully we'll be in a nice long line from knees to hips to shoulders. If that's not the case, you can either shuffle the knees back a teeny bit or bring the hands forwards a little bit. Now once we're here, let's get a really good posture going on. So let's get the shoulders gliding down the back and feel like a giraffe with your neck. So really go for length in the neck without jutting the head forwards, but keep the chin tucked in slightly. Woo! We're working our tummy, really pulling the belly button up. Loving it. Good. Now, if we feel ambitious today, we're tucking the toes under here, we're lifting the knees, and we're pressing into the heels. Some of us are going, my wrists are feeling really uncomfortable. If you're really feeling it in your wrists, now's the time to go lower, elbow down, elbow down. Now, once we're up in this high plank, if we start to shudder, we need to lower the knees down. If the tummy isn't pulling upwards, we need to lower the knees down. If you've got any strain in the lower back, we need to lower the knees down. So working at the level that's right for you. Have a little check. Those of you that can see yourself in the camera, make sure your bottom's not higher than your shoulders. That there'll be cheating. We come forwards and to make sure the pelvis is in line with the shoulders. Beautiful, that's looking great. Last breath. Let's allow ourselves to lower all the way down to the floor. Now I'm going to bring my thighs down, then my pelvis, and then soften to the floor. When we get there, let's take the hands wide, elbows wide, fingers point forwards. And we'll just take a moment with the right side of the face resting onto the floor. So for me, it's my ear that's resting on the floor, but I think if you haven't got quite that range of movement through the neck, it might be more the cheek. Now, we'll be here for a moment because it's a really good stretch across the side of the neck. Let's take a moment to feel that we can draw the belly button in and away from the ground. I'm lifting my head off slightly just so that you can still hear my voice. So we're drawing the belly button in and away from the floor. Now take a little breath for me, lift the head and allow the head to rotate so that you're resting on the left side of your face. There. Now make sure as we've got the pelvic floor lifting, as we've got the belly button lifting away from the ground, pelvic floor drawing in, we're still breathing. Nice deep breaths. Let's allow the head to lift and we'll rotate round to the opposite side. Now, if your neck is a particular issue for you, then you want to keep this going. Keep that going for me. If you know you can work a bit more, we'll allow the rib cage to start lifting away from the floor a little more as we tilt the head and come back down. So as we breathe out, the shoulders are going to glide down the back. We're going to allow the breastbone to gently lift and then we float back down. Listen into your body. If there's pinching in the lower back, we need to connect more into the tummy and maybe make the movement a little bit smaller. Let's make sure that these hands are not pressing into the ground, but just hovering off the floor. Those arms to lift all the way up and away from the floor, letting the shoulders really glide down the back. We lift, rotating the head. Allow yourself to roll onto your side, to come to face me. Imagine that you're on your left side, but it doesn't matter if you're on your other side because we're going to do both sides anyway. Just allow yourself to make a mental note of which side you're on. So in this side position, we've got the top hand, the bottom arm, really lengthening away from us. So we're aiming to have it making a long line from your arm to your toes. Let the head rest down because you've got a perfect little cushion there for your head. And the chin tucks in so the neck is kind of long. Lovely. Now, hips are on top of one another, so take a little moment to check you've not got your hips tipping forwards, you've not got your hips tipping back, but they're actually on top of one another. Allowing the toes to just come slightly forwards of you, so that you've got a real sense of length through the lower back and a sense of being able to draw the pelvis in towards the rib cage. This top hand might want to rest on the floor to start off with. Nice deep breath. Top leg stretches away from you. Top leg stretches away. Take a breath and let that bottom leg stretch away. With the breath. Those legs are lengthening. This is our first challenge. Second challenge, if we can, is to allow that top hand to lift and rest by our side. Now we'll keep breathing, keep lengthening. So both legs are extending and reaching away. Gorgeous. Let's take a deep breath. If you feel ready to, that top leg can start to circle. If you're working towards bringing this hand off, that's fine, that's brilliant. If you're working towards letting both the legs stretch away, that's brilliant. Now, if you're getting a discomfort in your lower back, let the bottom leg rest down, really drawing through the tummy. Keep breathing for me, one more, and then we'll float those legs back down and we'll soften in through the knees. Once we've softened through the knees, we'll tip the top hip slightly forwards. Squeeze in through the tummy, top knees overlapping the bottom knee, allow that knee to gently lift. And lower, lovely. So we're making a little triangular window with our leg. We've got that squeeze in the tummy, and that's keeping the hips still. So sometimes I put my hand on my hip, almost to reinforce for myself that I want that hip to stay there. Notice if as you lift, you get this lovely opening through the knee. If the knee's pointing up to the sky, I can guarantee your hip's moving with you. So tip it forward slightly and see if you can really stabilise it. And then let's glue the knees together and we'll allow the feet to lift. And lower. And we lift. We've got that scoop in through the core muscles. And then just a little cycle with that top leg. So let's flex the foot, push it forwards towards me, and then cycle back, give the bottom a little squeeze, and in we come. Good. And again, cycling round. Let's make it 3 in this direction, then we'll change to go in the opposite direction. So back pedal for me, back, drawing all the way in, push back and drawing in. Bring the foot in, give it a grab hold of the foot. So you can grab the foot in front of you and then sweep it back, or if it's easier to just hoik it up behind you and grab it, that's great. With the foot, wrap a band around the foot, and then you can ease it in and ease. We've got that sense of being really lengthened down the front of the quadricep. We're going to allow ourselves to just pull the knee back a little bit more, tip the pelvis forwards, and see if we can get a little bit into that hip flexor as well. Should feel really nice, a sense of really lengthening those muscles there. Strong in through the tummy. If you've got a cushion nearby, pop it under your head now as we take our opening up like a book. That's it, nice. Both arms come forwards and we add our opening up like a book. So take a deep breath in, we'll allow that top arm to open. The eyes are staying fixed on the hands, so the head is rolling with the action. You might find you can just allow yourself to lengthen up towards the sky and then draw the arm back. Or you might find that you can allow the arm to open all the way up, fingers stay reaching upwards, and the thumb stays in line with the nose as the arm opens all the way out. You might find that you can find the floor behind you, but you might not, and that's okay. If you feel you want to, we can combine this with our chalk circles. So we can keep the fingertips connected to the floor. We can allow the arm to come above the head and all the way around. And then we draw it back in the opposite direction. So if that's too intense on the shoulder or on the back, then stick with the opening up like a book and get it to the place that's good for you. If you feel that you want a little combination, we'll circle the arm around. Book to close. Book to open. And we'll circle back the other way. Circle the arm around. We'll allow the book to close. Open. And then we'll circle back the other way. So I don't usually combine the two because it's reliant on being able to take that full range of movement and the opening up like a book. So if that's not the case, then just keep with the opening up like a book, which suits you. Finish off there, let's come up to sit. We've got the feet on the floor and the knees are bent. We're going to allow the hands to come behind us. So the shoulders are gliding together. We're going to lift up. Just take a moment as if you were sunbathing in your garden. Shoulders gliding down, lifting the breastbone nice and high. Take a nice little lift through the chest there. Lovely. Now, we're going to just start to release that through the hips. So we'll allow the knees to drop over to the right side. And then we'll come through the centre. We'll allow the knees to drop over to the other side. And we lift. Don't be surprised if your bottom starts to move further away from you. Somehow I end up walking really far forwards when I start doing this one. So we'll just do one more on each side. And then you can allow your knees to drop over. Mine are dropping over to your right. And we'll lift on up and see if we can get ourselves really level. So we've got like a 90-degree angle in our front knee and a 90-degree angle in our back knee. We call this the Isle of Man pose. I always get it mixed up with the Isle of Wight, but that's a completely different flag, so no, that wouldn't work. We'll allow that hip to drop gently down. So yeah, lovely. Really feeling as though you're trying to square the hips off to the floor, trying to get that the other cheek down. And we're lifting nice and tall. From there, if you feel you want to, we can allow ourselves to ease gently down. If you need to come out for the stretch at any time, do. If you want more, this back leg can move backwards. If this isn't happening for you, you can draw that front knee in a bit tighter. You can draw the back knee in a bit tighter to get the stretch. Or if it's not working for you, always come out of it and just take a little stretch, a wide leg stretch. Up nice and tall. We'll let the knees tip over to the other side. Lovely. So keep breathing there. We'll allow ourselves to really drop the pelvis down. Sometimes when I'm in this exercise, I find that there's someone in the class that jumps up because this bit just kind of cramps up on you. So don't, freak out if you're suddenly getting cramp in your little right hip there. That's all right. We just need to just do it really gently and take our time with it. Come on down if you feel happy to. And if you want to stretch the back leg back behind you, you go for it. Tall from there. Let's come into the center and take the legs wide. So we'll go wide with the legs and see if we can allow ourselves to find those knobbly bits on the pelvis, the knobbly sits bones, and see if we can sit tall from both sides of the pelvis. Good. So for some of us, lengthening really tall in this position is quite a challenge, and that's okay. That's why we do it. We lift the shoulders, roll the shoulders back and down. And we didn't do a lot of working through the neck in our warm-up, so we're going to do that now. So we've got those shoulders just easing down the back, and we're lengthening as tall as we can through the spine. Take a breath. We'll allow the right ear to dip down towards the right shoulder. Through the centre, up and over to the opposite side. Do that again, head comes up and over to the right side. To the second side. And the head into the centre. Let's just rotate the head round to the right side. And then coming back into the centre and rotating round to the opposite side. Side. Here, if you feel you could get more out of your inner thighs from here, we'll just allow the hands to come forwards. If you're thinking, gee, Emma, this is enough for me, allow the feet to come together, let the knees go wide, find that diamond position instead. Yeah, that's it, lovely. Stay lifting tall if that's enough of a stretch and you're getting a nice inner thigh stretch there. So we'll lift nice and tall. Those of us that were almost in box splits, we're going to bring our legs in a little bit closer. If you're thinking that positioning is not for me anymore, we can allow the feet to come onto the floor, let the knees bend. We can allow ourselves to come around to a kneeling position. We're going to take a little bit of work through the spine for our spine rotation. So we'll allow our fingertips to come together, let the shoulders glide down the back. Drawing in through those core muscles, find a little lift in the pelvic floor, ribcage gently rotates around. And we'll breathe in as we return back to the centre, rotating around to the opposite side. Now listening to your body. If it's starting to sort of really complain in the lower back, do bend in through the knees. You can find that diamond position with the legs. Yeah, good, good. Basically we want a position for the legs where we're symmetrical, so that the spine is still balanced on a level pelvis. And if you feel you want to, the elbows can come nice and wide. And we can allow ourselves to gently rotate. Good. If you've had enough of being in that leg position. Last one, and then give it all a good shake out, give the legs and the arms a good shake out, give it a good jiggle. Well done. Let's come down onto our other side. So we'll allow, I've moved the the cushion over straight away so that I know which side I've got to go to. And then we'll allow ourselves to come on down to the floor. So, bottom arm's really nice and long, rest the head down. Take a little look down at your toes, check you can see your toes. Long lower back, so stretch right through the tailbone. As you extend through the tailbone, feel a sense of connection in the core. Both legs stretch away. If we can, the top hand can lift off and rest by our side, but it's not as important as seeing if we can get those two legs to stretch. So we're nice and deep with the breath, top leg gently circles. Breathing out for half the circle, breathing in to complete the circle. So it doesn't need to be a massive circle. The larger the circle is, the harder it is for you to keep that hip nice and still. So you can see where you want that to be, or where you can make it. Let's see if we can really zone in on letting that top shoulder glide down the back. And at the same time, let your head be really heavy into your arm. Sometimes people get a little bit of neck strain here, and I think it's where you're thinking so much about this area that you're kind of stressing into the shoulders and the neck. So if we let the head be heavy and let the shoulder drop down and away, I think that's helpful. Finishing off there, floating the legs down and softening through the knees. And we tip the top hip gently forwards. We squeeze in through the tummy. Taking a deep breath, let's allow that top knee to gently lift and lower. And we lift, lovely. Keeping those hips really nice and stable there, squeezing in through the tummy. A bit more accustomed to YouTube, because I'm putting all these videos onto YouTube and then sending them to my website. And I was thinking about doing a live YouTube class. So if anyone's got a suggestion of when would be a good time to do a YouTube live class, feel free to pop me some messages, put it on the Facebook page and let me know. Squeeze the knees together, allow both feet to lift. We lift and lower. We lift. Work out when the best time would be, and I honestly can't work out what would be the best time. So any feedback you've got, any thoughts you've got on that would be really good. And release in there. Take that cycle in of the top leg. So we've got both feet resting on the floor. Top leg cycles forwards and around. Squeeze into the bottom as you circle around. And last one, then circle back in the opposite direction. So we'll push through the heel and circle it around. Push through the heel, circle around. And last one. Bringing that foot in nice and close to the bottom, so you can either hug it in nice and tight first of all, hold on to the foot from there, or you can allow and then sweep it behind you, or what you can do is stretch it out behind and then draw it in. I would suggest trying to hoik it in kind of quick, otherwise the hamstring has to do quite a lot of work, and it sometimes complains about that. So we'll stretch in that knee away, getting a nice sense of stretch towards the wall beyond you, or maybe trying to hoik it back a little bit. And then as you do that, ease in the tailbone forwards to get an extended stretch through the hip flexor. Nice and deep with that breath. From there, pop the cushion underneath your head. Let there be some cushion behind you so that as the head rolls, it rolls onto the cushion. Taking a breath, let that top arm gently open, eyes are fixed on the hand. And it might be that the arm lengthens up to the sky and then you draw back. Or it might be that the arm opens all the way out. Now keep that connection through the tummy so you're really supporting the back as you find this rotation. Add those little chalk circles in, we can do. So we can allow the fingertips to stay connected to the floor, drawing all the way around, and then drawing that arm back. And then if you want to, you can combine that with your opening up like a book. So we'll circle around and we'll close the book to open. And then we'll draw the fingertips back and around. Just one more like that. With my tidal wave dancers on Wednesday. So, you know, there's always room for it to be in a dance sequence. Just watch this space. Let's allow ourselves to come onto our backs. And allow the feet to be just hip distance apart when we get there. Let the knees bend. Let the pelvis rest on down into the floor. And if you feel really comfortable with the cushion still underneath your head, then that's great. Just check that you've got a sense of the chin kind of tucking inwards if you've got the cushion. If you don't need the cushion anymore, by all means get rid of it. And you know that you're going to look for a nice sense of length across the back of the neck. So we'll allow ourselves to take a moment to really descend into the ground, really releasing into the floor. And we do want to work from neutral here, but what I want to do is start to think about the shoulder bridge, start to make that movement. So we'll start gently by letting the lower back press into the floor, and then we'll tip and we'll release away. Let's just come back to neutral, hips and pubic bone level. Squeezing in through the tummy, lower back presses into the floor. We lift the pelvis and then we tip back to a place where hips and pubic bone are level with one another. So we'll gradually start to increase the size of this movement. Let's see if we can increase the size of the movement whilst really looking at articulating each and every one of our vertebrae. For some of us, we might get to a certain point and think, oh, I can't actually get those vertebrae to be really clearly moving, and maybe focus on that for a few moments and then move on. So if you feel you're happy to, we'll get to that point where we'll keep rolling, each vertebrae rolls on up, and we get to that place where we're in a ski slope position from knees, hips to shoulders. We'll take a breath from there, and then we'll float the vertebrae back down. We'll press the lower back into the floor and we'll tip the pelvis back to neutral. Let's keep that going. Now, some of us are happy to add the arms in straight away, so we'll see how that feels. We've got options. We can allow the arms to lengthen up towards the sky, or they may want to go all the way over the head, or they might want to go somewhere between those two extremes. And then we'll float the vertebrae back down, bit by bit, press the lower back into the floor, and then allow the arms to return back by our sides. So notice, as you stretch the arms up towards the sky, you'll probably find as you float the vertebrae down, you've got a bit more purchase on the vertebrae, on the more articulation. If you bring the arms further over the head, it'll magnify the challenge. So you can find the place that works well for you. If you want to add a little abdominal curl up in, now's the time to do it. We'll do it at the end of the shoulder bridge. Rolling up through the spine. When we get to the top, on this next one, not this one, but on the next one, we'll allow ourselves to take some little leg lifts. Now, if the shoulder bridge is new to you, or if you've got any back issues going on, or if you know there's hamstring issues, then you might want to avoid lifting the feet, but you can never start to think about it, so the muscle pathways start to work out what they're going to do. So we'll come to that place where knees and hips and shoulders come into line with one another. We'll take a breath from there, and we're going to allow one heel to lift away from the floor. Now there's a connection in the bottom. You're going to find a deeper connection now. And then we change over to the other side. The foot, maybe just the heel lifts, maybe the whole of the foot lifts. And we float back down, adding in the arms. The challenge is not to wobble the hips. So notice whether they have a little wobble from side to side. We want to see if we can avoid that. Bringing the arms back by our side and taking that little abdominal curl up. Let's roll through the spine, and you don't need to add the legs in, they are optional. You can just keep yourself rolling through the spine if you want to. One leg lifts. This time it might be that the toe can point up towards the sky. And we'll float that foot down, change over to the other side, extending up for the sky, and then floating back down, adding those arms in, back down one by one, and then bringing the arms back by our side. Take that little abdominal curl up and breathing in as you return back to neutral. For me there, bring that right knee in and give it a little hug. Allow ourselves to stretch the right leg up towards the sky. We'll hold on around the back of the thigh. If you've got a band or a scarf or a belt or something, you can wrap it around your foot and hold on to the ends. Otherwise, we're just holding on to the leg. The band is a good option for if you find that your arms aren't long enough to hold on to the leg. And it allows you then to grab hold of the leg or come into this hamstring stretch without too much strain in the neck or the shoulders. We're not suddenly hoiking our head away from the floor, but we're able to really release it down into the ground. So we want to be able to release and relax the rest of the body as we get this little hamstring stretch going on. Take a breath, take that leg just across the midline of the body. Nice tight squeeze in through the tummy, bringing that leg back into the centre. Take a deep breath for me from here, and we're going to take 3 little circles. So we'll let go of the leg, and we're going to take 3 little circles with the back pressing into the floor. So we'll circle as if we're drawing a little circle on the ceiling. If your back tells you no, bend your knee, and that'll take the strain out of the back. Circle back in the opposite direction. Now, bring that leg back into the centre for me, and we're just going to bend the knee so the knee comes to hover above the hip socket. Notice the change in your lower back. We can now come to a place where hip bone and pubic bone are level, and there's a natural curve running underneath your lower back. Rib cage is soft. Let's take our scissor action, dipping the right toe down and allow the leg to lift. Taking 4 more like that. Knee above the hip socket, squeezing in through the core muscles, neutral spine. Let that knee just open out to the side. So without letting the hips tip, get to that point just before the hips are going to tip, and then draw the leg back in. And again, the knee opens out. Hips are nice and stable and still. We breathe in as the leg returns. Let's take 3 more. So from there, we'll allow that right foot to come across the left leg. Let the right knee fall open to the side so you make a nice triangular shape with the legs. Either stay there and just press that knee away from you, or weave the hands around the leg that's got the foot on the floor and ease the leg in close to you. Releasing down into the ground. Seeing if we can let the head be nice and heavy. This one again is one of those ones where the chin sometimes juts upwards. We want to keep the chin tucking in so the back of the neck is really nice and long. Good, and releasing there. Let's change over to the other leg. So bringing that leg in, giving it a little hug, just releasing into the lower back. Good, right foot rests down onto the floor. Squeezing in from there, see if we can hold on around the back of the thigh, lengthening that leg up towards the sky. Stretches up towards the sky. Once again, if you want to put your band around your foot or belt or scarf or something, we can do. Once you're there, you're encouraging the shoulders to just melt down into the ground, encouraging the back to rest into the floor, encouraging there to be length in the back of the neck. Nice and deep with the breath. Seeing if we can really get that sense of the pelvis dropping down and away. Maybe the leg starts to ease a little bit closer. Take a breath and we'll allow that leg to come slightly across the midline of the body. Breath, then coming into the centre, we'll let go of that leg, bringing the arms around by our side, taking a little circle. So breathing out for half the circle, breathing in to complete the circle. Your back is pressed into the ground at this point. Natural, yeah, you can have the knee bent if it causes any strain in the lower back. I kind of naturally go into my dancer mode and point my toe, but you don't need to. Let's take the circle the opposite direction. If you want to, or you can let it be soft. Okay, we're bringing that leg back into the centre. We're going to bend at the knee. Notice that allows you then to tip the hips so that you've got a neutral spine position. Scooping in through the tummy, the toe dips down as if you were testing the temperature of some water. We allow that leg to lift. We dip the toe down. Keeping that squeeze in through the tummy, looking to keep the hips nice and level. That knee hovering above the hip socket, knee opens out to the side. So the knee gently opens out. We breathe in as we draw the leg back in. And again, knee opens out to the side. Off there, bring that foot across the knee, that's it. Let the knee open out to the side. Taking that little stretch to the glute. So if you can, weaving the hands around the leg that's got the foot on the floor and ease those legs in close to you. Release in there, bring the knees in nice and close, give them a good hug. Bring the head up towards the knees and just gently ease yourself, rock yourself forwards and back. Now, if there's any back issues, come onto one side and push yourself up to a seated position. Otherwise, this should feel quite nice and we can build it and then we'll allow ourselves to rock up, pin up to sitting. Good. Let's bring ourselves round into a crouch position. Hopefully, so today's focus was on really trying to ease out and give a bit more space and a bit more stability and length to the lower back. So I was looking at the lower back specifically today. So hopefully your backs are feeling lovely. Let's press our heels into the ground. Let's let the head be nice and heavy. We're rolling gently up through the spine. And we'll allow the head to come on top, last thing of all. Lovely. When we get there, let's allow those feet to be just sinking down into the floor. Let's allow the tailbone to be descending down and the top of the head can float up towards the space above us. Let's take a little check-in. We've got the pelvic floor switched on. Lift the shoulders, roll the shoulders back and down. And with you, Jill, take a deep breath in, bending the knees, reach up really tall. Breathing out and we'll let it all go. Give it a good shake out. Give yourselves a round of applause. Well done, guys.